KFIZ News Time. It is 8:10. Welcome to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. I am Matt Hinker, and here with me today is Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Delores. The phone lines are open for any and all of your gardening and landscaping questions, so shoot us a call at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. Can't give us a call? Shoot us an email at kfizstudio@gmail.com. Ron, Delores, good morning. Welcome on this, I would say, pretty typical
crisp fall day.
Yes, that's a great way to describe it, Delores. Crisp fall day.
Yeah, I'd say this is about as normal as what it can get for the last weekend in October.
Agree. Yep.
A little
frost,
dry. Frost this morning, but not a bad freeze or anything here yet. So I don't know, that affects some plants more so than others. Some things have froze out now, and some are still hanging in there yet.
Yep.
So
I covered my tomatoes, and they still look good.
What did you cover them with?
A blanket, never plastic. That attracts the cold.
Right. But what kind, like any particular kind of blanket? Or?
Well, it's a quilt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I find my cats hiding under it.
That's well, especially this time of the year. Anyways, if they're like my cats, they're seeking any warmth they can locate in the house. That's usually me or the wife, more often than not. So, so then I would imagine the lawns are going to probably be going dormant here soon, Ron.
Well, and it's still, we're going to get some rain this coming week here.
That's
now,
what it sounds like.
And I don't know that it'll be a lot to help out trees, but it'll definitely help, keep the lawns green and growing. And we're going to get a couple days in the 70s this coming week here again, too.
Yep.
So, I would still be a little leery about, doing your winterizing fertilizer.
Yeah.
The ground temperatures are still warm. And this week isn't going to really change too much that way, even though, we're starting to get some days here down into the 30s and 40s. So I wouldn't put your winterizer on yet this weekend, but then probably any time after next weekend.
Like, so probably looking early November would be a good time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I would wait it out just a little bit here yet, because if you would, fertilize now, today or tomorrow, and then we get rain on Monday,
and then
some
Monday 70s
night, and then
degrees.
some 70s. You're going to kind of kickstart your lawn here yet just a little bit.
Might want to lower the deck on the mower.
So that's why I would just wait it out yet this week, and then once we get through this, this coming week, then the forecast, the 10-day outlook, 2-week outlook is more for highs in the 50s and lows in the 30s and 40s. So just by waiting it out one more week, you're going to get a much better benefit out of that fertilizer. The advantage to just waiting just that little bit is then it's working its magic on the root system instead of on promoting a lot of new vegetative growth. So just by waiting it out one more week, you're going to end up with a better lawn for next year instead of having to mow one more time this year. And you might still have to mow one more time this year, depending on how the timing works. But mowing once is better than
two or three
times yet. And if you fertilize, today, or you fertilized last week, and then we start, we get this rain here now again, you'll be mowing yet one more time. And there's, you want to keep your lawn mowed a little short. If you leave it get tall now at this time of year, then you run the risk of it matting. It's kind of, so you want to cut it now at 2 inches or, 2.5 inches. Don't let it go to 3 or 3.5 or 4. Pretty soon, then it mats over, and pretty soon you have then it's below 2 inches. Once it lays over and mats down.
Then it becomes like concrete.
So don't, you want to continue to mow, and if you mow it now, you can mow it now at 2 inches, because you're not going to burn.
No, you won't.
It's not going to burn it out anymore now. So I've lowered my deck down here now in the last couple, and now you're kind of mowing more to get rid of the leaves than the
Yep.
grass.
It's more about that than it is anything else. So I have a question then to follow up on that, because you mentioned the soil temperature. Is there so it's kind of a two-part question for you, Ron. Is there a particular temperature of the soil that you're looking for before putting on that winterizer? And then also, like, what depth would you be checking that, let's say, if you were to try to get that reading?
Well, I don't know that it's that specific.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Matt, it's more.
That's how my brain works, sorry.
There probably is a
range, probably.
A range or a formula for that, but I'm a little more seat of your pants kind of a guy.
That's okay. I was just curious.
Than a technician. So, when I kind of work more with my eyes than with instruments, and if it looks good and it feels good, then
go for it.
I don't trust instruments as much as I trust my gut and trust my eyes. So, it just seems like and that's, now if you're trying to do tests down 18 inches or 2 feet down, sometimes you can't trust your eyes either.
Right.
But in most cases, and even, when people ask me, should I take a soil test? And I says, well, just send me a picture of your plants or trees. I can tell you just as much from a soil test as what I can. A lot of times I can tell you more, because a soil test is it's specific to that exact spot.
Oh yeah, that makes sense, right? That's not telling you necessarily about the whole area.
Right. So if you're looking at a lawn area, and generally it's about the same, but sometimes there's fill put in and different things like that. And so, the eye test is in my, I have enough experience where if you're kind of new to the game, then you have to rely on instruments a little bit more. And I used to too, actually, but now I kind of know what.
Right, you just get a feel for
I can almost predict what it's going to say if I measure it. So, so I very seldom use an instrument anymore that way. But that's that's me. So
I like to get technical sometimes, because my brain just immediately gets curious. Like, okay, so wonder what that number is.
Well, and quite frankly, when I was your age, Matt, I had to do it that way too. But then you learn, that, okay, this is what you kind of learn to guess what the numbers are going to be when you do soil tests and when you do temperature tests and pH tests and different things like that. And then you kind of learn, I kind of have the eye test down now, where I almost trust my eyes more so than the actual instrument. Yeah. So
another good reason to cut your lawn short in the fall is that the rodents like to make little nests. And especially in the country.
And they love the taller the grass, the better, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Right. You'll have more vole damage and meadow mice and things like that if you if you can keep it cut short. And what that actually does is it just opens it up to a point where the hawks and the owls and things like that,
they can see their food.
They can see it. So if the animals, varmints, rodents, whatever we want to call them, if they can hide underneath that tall grass, then they'll venture out and they'll create problems for you. Where if you keep it cut short, then they don't get that cover.
Yep.
Right.
And so then they hide, they go somewhere else. They go where the grass is taller and where it's safer. They go over to your neighbor's yard.
Which is fine. You're right. That's fine. Yes, go over there.
And so, if you can get together, and if you're, and if you have a country lot or an adjoining lot, it's good to mow it, because that keeps those, even if it's not yours, get permission and mow it, or mow into their yard a little bit. If you're in a city lot, and let's just say there's a vacant lot behind you or next door to you,
just a couple swipes back and forth.
cheat your way into their yard a little bit and mow some of that taller grass down, and that'll save your yard next year. because then they'll just stay in the tall grass.
Right. Another thing is the leaves will just blow off a short lawn. The long one,
That makes sense. Yeah,
it will
longer,
catch.
Yeah, that makes
right,
sense.
and make it even worse.
It'll kind of act almost like like a Velcro or a catch, kind of just slowly gathering it up. All right, I tell you what, we will step aside and take our first break. Don't go anywhere as you're listening to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company, which I assume is still open today, Ron?
Yeah, and I just actually talked to Brock earlier this morning, and we're still on summer hours at Rademann's, which means we're open, of course, today until noon and Monday through Friday till 4:30. So anyway, please stop on out, just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, east on B.
All right, welcome back to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. I'm Matt Hinker, and joining me today is Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Delores. Our phone lines are open for any and all of your gardening and landscaping questions, so give us a call at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. Can't give us a call? Shoot us an email at kfizstudio@gmail.com. And speaking of the phone lines, we actually had a caller during our break there. She doesn't want to talk while she has to drive. She's driving to Fond du Lac. I totally get that. But so we're going to still try to, we'll give the question and then we'll answer it here. So we try to answer your questions any way we can here, folks. But and it had to do with,
the lady planted an iris last fall.
That's right.
And it didn't bloom in the spring, and now it's blooming in the fall, and she's worried about it. She may have planted an ever-blooming iris that will bloom in the fall. And even with this crazy weather we've had, a lot of people have new blooms on their iris.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Enjoy the bloom. We're going to have winter, and then it will do its thing again.
Because she asked if she should cut the bulb off, right? Yeah. Don't cut the flower. Because we were it. When you guys were listening, when she asked that part, I saw you shake your head. You're like,
no, don't cut it off.
Yeah, some of these plants, because we ended up with almost a little bit of 2 summers this year.
Right.
Yeah. So they started growing a few weeks earlier than normal, and then we get that hot dry spell in July, and later in July, then they kind of, went dormant into early August.
Yep.
Then we started getting some rain, or in this case, maybe you start watering some things. Well, then we have all this nice weather here in October.
Yep.
And some of these plants think, well, it's time to start again.
Let's do this again.
Let's start up again. Yeah.
There's a lot of people who've had lilacs bloom again this fall that never bloom in the fall.
I think we had someone call 2 weeks ago about something like that. I've heard.
Yeah, I was actually over at at Corneli's, the roller rink over on Fond du Lac Avenue, and they have lilac trees planted in front of their building there. And I was there, I don't know if it was like the first Packer game, or maybe it was, or one of the Brewer games. They had a function there. So I stopped in, and there their lilac was all flowered out.
Nice.
And it was, I don't remember now exactly if it was late August or, or early September. But, there too, that it definitely flowered back in late June and July. Then it started regrowing again. And I think part of that was they asked me, and I says, no, you better water it because it's been dry here now.
Right.
The end of July and August. And these were trees that were just planted like 2 years ago. And so they watered it then in early August, and then pretty soon it started growing the end of August and early September. So then it started flowering again. So anyway, so that's, that's kind of what happens when you have kind of a tale of 2 seasons, like we did this year, a longer growing season, combined with the fact that we had the warm weather, exceptionally warm late September and month of October. So
another thing is people are not watering their newly planted shrubs because, oh, they've already lost their leaves. Well, they want to keep growing until that ground is frozen, so keep watering. And not just 20 minutes. My friend is like, oh, I put the hose on 20 minutes. Put it on to soak.
Right.
A
that deep
slow
soak.
soak. And
Because what you're trying to do is promote root growth there, right?
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, the tops are finished growing, but
Sure.
if we can keep the roots growing here in October and early November,
Right. The more root growth before winter.
that just makes it easier for you next year. The plants are toughened up.
Yep.
The ground is so dry. I have
It is really dry, yeah.
inch and a half cracks in places where
Oh,
I
I
don't
bet, yeah.
water
Yeah.
on lawn.
All right, I tell you what, we will turn to the phone lines. You're on Landscape Smart with Ron and Delores. Go ahead with your name and question.
Oh, and thank you so much for the program.
No problem.
You just answered the very specific question that I had. I have orange coneflowers, and they aren't even have been replanted this year in the best. And I'll be dipped if those things aren't just flowering again. And I stopped fertilizing, and my biggest concern was, oh, yes, I love this, but at the same time, how much stress would it be putting on the plant itself that is trying to prepare for, and would a person be better off, and you already said, enjoy the flowers, be better off cutting those flowers so the plant can concentrate on taking care of the roots?
You're not quite connected, so we couldn't hear it all, but we understand that your coneflower is reblooming and
Yes.
you're worried about it. All I would do is water it and enjoy the blooms because it's just an extra long season. And you just want to make sure that the roots are taken care of. You said you just
I
planted.
apologize for I'm out in the garage because I have people sleeping in my house yet.
It's okay.
It's
And,
not a problem, but I would water and water and water.
But the thing is, what I'm questioning, and I love the flowers, but if a person does that, isn't the plant extending some of their what they need to prepare for winter by taking care of those flowers? And when I get done with this question, I just want to comment. Last week you had asked about a cucumber plants that I said have produced so much. I did look at the tag, and the label on the type of cucumber it was English. And that was it, English cucumber.
Well, let's go back to the
Please, thank you.
to the coneflower question. It's still, producing flowers is still okay. If it was producing a lot of new growth, then I'd be a little more concerned.
Okay.
But just the flower part of it, and the other thing is, the 2-week outlook yet is still for pretty nice weather.
Yeah.
And so, we're going to be mostly in the 50s yet, in overnight lows, in the mid 30s, upper 30s, 40s. So we're having we've got at least a couple more weeks of good fall-like weather, let's just say. So no, I wouldn't, and I don't know that I would, even if they're still flowering in a few weeks, I don't know. They're still not that still wouldn't really be a problem.
No.
Okay, good.
And they're producing, if they're flowering, they're producing seeds yet. And a lot of those seeds, as they mature, they drop, and you get coneflowers kind of two ways, one from the root and one from the new seeds. So, even if if the root systems would be affected and you're getting more new seeds, well, you're still, it's still working to your advantage.
Okay, thank
Where
you.
if you
the
cut
birds
those
will
tops,
love you.
yeah, and if you cut the flowers off, then you're going to lose those seeds. So,
Well, and I deadhead everything. And I know I have a sister that lets the zinnias all go to seed, and I thought, I want my flowers to look good. So if I have those going to seed and looking not real nice, that's taking away from the beauty of the fresh flowers. So I never let anything go to seed.
But even your coneflowers you don't let go to seed?
No, I used to because I knew that the goldfinches were supposed to come and eat them, and I never had, between my bed and a school bed that I took care of, I kept those out until the following spring, and they were not touched. They didn't
what a shame.
shed, and they weren't eaten.
Uh-huh.
So that just kind of really puzzled me, but so now I just deadhead everything. Maybe this year I will let them go to seed so I can have it 2 ways round thing.
Yep.
There you go.
All right, yeah, please do. So, all right.
But no, I just wanted to tell Carol that it was an English cucumber, and for whatever that's worth, I had never heard of them before, and the more people I talk to, they have. It isn't a bush; it's a cucumber that spreads out, vine. But if you can find one that says English, I promise you that it'll really produce well with very little care. Have a continued fall, and thanks again for the program.
Not a problem.
You're
Thank you for the
welcome.
call.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't remember what the debate was last week.
Yeah, and I wasn't here last week.
Oh, that's
unfortunately.
right. Yeah, and of course Delores wasn't either last week.
No, so
So I'm entrusted with remembering the cucumber question.
Yep, that's on you, Ron.
But I don't recall exactly what the
You can
what
buy
we were
English
talking about.
cucumbers in the grocery store. They're long and thin, and they are wrapped in plastic.
Well, those
okay.
are my cucumbers of choice, actually, because there's a few less seeds in them, and
yeah, there does tend to be a little bit less seeds in them. You're right.
so yeah, that's my favorite one.
All right, I tell you what, we will take our second break. Do not go anywhere as you are listening to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company.
So yeah, Rademann's open today, and you can still get a delivery today if you give Brock and the crew a call out there, 920-922-7612, or stop on out just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac, east on County B.
Welcome back to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. I'm Matt Hinker, and joining me today is Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Delores. Phone lines are open for any and all of your landscaping and gardening questions. Shoot us a call at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. Can't give us a call? You can shoot your question over via Gmail at kfizstudio@gmail.com. And speaking of the phone lines, I'll tell you what, we will turn right to the phone lines right now. You're on with Ron and Delores. Go ahead with your name and question.
My name is Daryl, and I have a little bit of a question. I've got a rose bush that's probably about 3 to 4 foot high, and it bloomed, and now it's pretty well done for this year. Is that a good idea to still keep watering that root system like we just got through talking? Is it still okay to do that? And I also got some perennials that are pretty well done. All they got is just the brown stalks hanging up. Is that still good to continue watering that as well?
Absolutely. If we have a dry winter and that ground is cracked, those roots are very susceptible to frost and drying out and dying. Several years ago, we had a very, very dry winter, not much snow, lots of wind. I can tell you I lost 7 shrubs.
Okay.
Because you just can't take the hose out there in January. So water them now, because you don't know what winter's going to bring, and the ground is already cracked.
It is already dry, yeah.
Very dry.
You can't go wrong, and that's where, like Delores said, it's a lot easier to water right now. You know, you wait a few weeks, and you think, oh, I should have, I didn't water a couple of weeks ago. Now I have to water, And then pretty soon, you're taking the hose out and I always like to water on back-to-back days because that's what really, that kind of emulates a full day-night, rainfall.
Right.
So if you water on, Saturday afternoon and again on tomorrow morning, now that's like it watering, like it raining all Saturday afternoon and Saturday night and Sunday. And you can do that like right now when it's only dropping down to 40 or 42 at night, but you try doing that in a couple weeks when it drops down, to freezing overnight. Now your hose, you water and your hose freezes overnight, and then you've got a real problem the next day. You've got to try and coil your hose back up, and it's full of ice and things like that. So at this time of year, you can, if you water good here over the weekend, go ahead and pick your garden hoses up then. And that way, if you do need to water again in a couple or 3 weeks, at least then they're ready to go.
Yeah.
Whereas if you kind of leave them out and leave them ready for next week, sometimes that doesn't work out well.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know because the perennials were real nice, but then they die off too, and you'd be dormant for the winter. And it's just some of the brown stems that are just sticking up, So, I mean, they're done for this year, but I kind of
But the roots aren't.
Yeah.
The roots aren't done until it freezes hard.
And I'd also imagine you'd recommend using some bark mulch as well to protect it as well before wintertime, right?
Well, and that helps too. There,
Helps hold the moisture.
if you water and then put bark mulch down, then it insulates the soil and holds the moisture there. So or if you have like bark mulch or chips in and around these perennials, and again, then when you water, it holds that well here for a couple, especially at this time of year. It doesn't really dry out real much.
Right. Yeah.
For the most part, other than the fact that if you haven't done any water, and that's when people ask me now, the first question I ask them is, well, have you
done any?
have you watered at all in the last 10 days or 2 weeks? And if they say no, then it needs it.
Sure. Well, I always pretty much watered like in the summertime when they were blooming and everything, but I know I listened to the show and earlier today you said too, still water, but I was just wondering about perennials and that rose bush, that I have.
Well, and the perennials are helped a little bit more by typical rainfall because they've got they're a shallow, they have generally a shallower root system. So if we're getting timely rains, that's okay.
Right.
And and it looks like we're going to get some rain maybe Monday afternoon, Monday night, and maybe even again on like Wednesday, Thursday. There's a couple days.
There's a little talk of it, yeah.
So that'll help out the perennials. It won't really help out your rose though.
Yeah, because it's deeper root system, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay, that answers my question. Thanks a lot, and have a nice day.
Yes, excellent. Thank you, you too.
Sure.
Bye.
Well, and that kind of takes us to the questions. I had several people call this week with some plant problems. We'll take our call.
Okay,
Let's do that, and then
no problem. We'll just keep right here on the phone lines. You're on with Ron and Delores. Go ahead with your name and question.
Hi, good morning. This is Shirley, and not only are perennials confused, I have an amaryllis that's very confused as well. It bloomed last December, and then, of course, in summer, I set it outside. And then in the end of September, as the nights got cooler, I brought it in, and I looked one morning, and there it is on the first part of October. It's blooming again. So its cycle is all off, because usually I put it in dark spots about the 15th of October and leave it there till the 1st of December so that when I bring it out, it blooms for Christmas. So do you have any idea on what I might do with it if I wanted to bloom again for Christmas?
I think I would just enjoy the bloom now, and then when it's done, put it in a dark spot. It might not bloom till January. Then you might not have it for Christmas, but
That's what I was going to say. You're probably going to end up with a January amaryllis instead of a Christmas
A
amaryllis.
New Year's.
Yeah, a New Year's
there you
one.
go.
Yeah. Okay.
Or Valentine.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Flowers any time of year are wonderful.
Yeah, it was just so crazy because I've had this amaryllis bulb. It's a wax bulb, and I've had it for about 5 years, and it's gotten quite big, and it's been very timely up until now. And so I will do that and then see what happens. And by the way, I have 4 robins in my bird bath taking a bath right now.
I was out in my woods and prairie yesterday, and 2, 3, 4 robins at a time. I didn't count how many, but as we walked the property, 40 acres, we saw dozens of robins.
Wow.
It was really
So
great. to
everything's
see.
confused.
That's
Well, that's
not just one robin.
right. And if we can keep the songbirds around here for an extra couple of weeks in October, that's always nice.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, because I was noticing too they were enjoying some of the crabapple. The crab apples that we grow nowadays they're tiny crab apples, so the birds will eat most of the fruit off of them. So they're still around enjoying them. So that's
Right.
great.
Yeah, it is.
I'm lucky that I have thorn apples crossed with crab apples out in my field, and I have 1-inch little crab apples out there, and one tree is orange, one is red, and one is yellow. It's just so pretty, these little apples out there. They look like those cherries you put on Christmas trees when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you for your call.
Okay. Thanks, Delores. I'll let you know what happens with the amaryllis.
Oh, yes, do so,
Okay.
please. Bye.
I was going to tell her that. Yeah, I'm glad she did.
Well, I think we're planning on doing the shows once a month in the winter months. We haven't really confirmed all that.
Yeah, that's
yet
right. Yeah,
with,
we'll have to figure that out, but we'll have to make sure we get that schedule
So-
out there so she can
So if she
time her
calls
calls.
in January or
Yes.
February, she can let us know how the amaryllis, if it's blossoming again or getting ready to
Yep,
blossom.
or where we're at.
If it's red for Valentine's, that would be cool.
So, Delores, would you say there's anything in particular you would have people doing in their vegetable gardens right now? Especially, I mean, I'd imagine it's mostly cleanup, right? I remember a couple weeks ago, that's what Carol kind of said. So,
Right. Cleanup is the most important in a vegetable garden, especially like the tomatoes. You don't want those greens there. You don't want them composting in your garden, and the peppers, and it's just unsightly. And it's so hard to do all that in the spring. If you can get it done, clean it up.
We are getting actually some orders in right now for our garden mix at Rademann's. They've cleaned up their garden and they want to get the soil in there, couple inches. They mix in, blend in, and this past week we actually had a couple people. When I was in there, they called in looking for the garden mix. It's got a blend of compost, more organic, and than our typical shredded black dirt. We just blend in some compost with it. So it
That would be nice to top dress because my ground is so hard. I sure wouldn't want to till it.
well, and that's just it. That compost in there, and some people, it was leaves, it was grass, 2 or 3 or 4 years ago,
Right.
and now it's real nice and airy. So you rototill that in with your existing soil. It opens it up, aerates it and
Right.
and you end up with especially if you end up with better root systems, you're going to end up with better plants.
Right.
And it
Right.
doesn't really matter if you're growing beets or tomatoes or potatoes or celery. It's all
Yep.
it all helps. So
Well, the roots are where they essentially get all their nutrition. So the better they can get that, the better they can grow, right? So
So yeah, you could put your garden mix on. Now I wouldn't do any fertilizing or anything.
I wouldn't think so. No,
that would be kind of a waste of time and money, but on a vegetable garden, that is.
Right, yeah.
But the compost will hold a little more water, I think.
Yeah, it holds it better, and it aerates.
Right.
Aerates. Right. You don't get that compacted, that compaction.
Do you cover yours with, after all this, do you cover it with like a bark mulch or wood chips or anything like that?
No, but I let the leaves pile up on my vegetables. I have a very, very small amount of vegetables, just because I'm not that young anymore. I grow apples, strawberries, rhubarb, asparagus, and tomatoes and peppers. That's it.
So more of the perennial vegetables than the annual vegetables.
It's a little easier.
Okay, so like which one of those are perennial? I'm
asparagus, rhubarb.
I knew asparagus
apples,
was
pears.
Okay,
peaches.
but not but like tomatoes and peppers aren't. I didn't think so.
Oh no, they're delicate.
That's
they're
what I
very
thought.
Delicate. Yeah.
So
but if you've only got a couple of annual vegetables together with your asparagus and then you've got twice as many vegetables with half as much work. So
right. Yeah. So then just dig up those the pepper plants and
compost them or remove them.
I wouldn't compost peppers and tomatoes.
Yeah,
they're nightshade family, and I wouldn't put those in the compost.
Okay. I tell you what, we will turn to take our final break. You're listening to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company.
So yeah, again, Rademann's open today until noon, Monday through Friday till 4:30. Give us a call for a delivery yet, 920-922-7612, or stop on out just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac and then east on County B.
All right, welcome back to the final segment of Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. I'm Matt Hinker, and joining me today is Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Delores. Phone lines are open for your landscaping and gardening questions, 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450, or you can shoot your question over via email at kfizstudio@gmail.com. Now, Delores, there in the break, you were telling me something that I found interesting, is that some of the pollinators will live in the stem of the plant, and so when cutting things back, you want to be a little careful. And you mentioned some other reasons too, so why don't you kind of go over some of that?
Well, leaving some of your flower stems, like the purple coneflower, that's very, very nice winter interest when it gets ice and snow on it. And yes, some of them, and I don't know which plants, will have pollinators living in the stems. I do cut some things back, but because I have so much area where I really don't compost it, I do leave piles out in my prairie and so the pollinators that are in those stems can still live in those stems.
Okay.
And I use the leaves as mulch. I let them grow and blow into my flower beds. If I cut anything back, I cut it back to about 6 inches so it catches leaves. Works as a great protection for the winter. And some of the pollinators have their eggs on leaves, so it pays to leave some leaves. You can't always leave all of them.
Well, when you say the leaves, you mean like leaves from trees.
Right.
Not from the actual plants
right, leaves
themselves.
from the plants, right. Leaves from trees, if there's too many leaves, then it creates matting and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of leave them, you have to clean those up, especially if they're on your lawn.
Right.
But you could pile them up in your, perennial bed or in your
vegetable bed,
and then you might have to, rake them off or clean them out of there come springtime again.
Right. But like a leaf from a catalpa, they're huge, and I have a maple that has big flat leaves.
Yep, same.
And they will just mat and
Yep.
kill the lawn and kill
Oh, yeah.
perennials. You just have to be very careful with those.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I can't remember what I missed, a corner or something one of my first years I moved into my house. And and I remember in springtime, like you could literally, it was almost like a piece of cardboard picking this thing up of all these matted maple leaves.
Yeah.
Just absolutely, completely mashed and killed that corner of the lawn.
Right.
Just completely.
And in a corner like that, they'll just build up and you won't catch it. And they don't even have to be big leaves. If they're small and they pile up, you get some snow on top of it. And like you said, it looks like cardboard.
Yep. And the snow really helps
Oh, yes.
compress it down.
And for the most part, though, especially if you have somewhat temperamental or borderline hardy plants, and some of these, like the endless summer varieties, hydrangea, and that includes twist and shout and bloomstruck and even cherry explosion or any of those, the leaves actually help. If you leave them there, because that kind of creates an insulating barrier.
And it'll hold moisture, which hydrangeas need.
Right. And there, too, the hydrangeas at this point in time are pretty well finished flowering. And I was in a friend's yard yesterday afternoon, and he was asking, should I cut these blossoms off or dead flowers off? And, that's a little more of a personal choice there. You can leave them, and his happened to be one of the PG hydrangeas. It was more of the woody ones that have, and it was probably 4 foot tall, 5 foot tall, and it was loaded with flowers. And in that case, I was a little nervous because I said, boy, if we'd get a wet snow, it could break it down. And this happened to be in his backyard. So, in this case, I said, it might be better and there's no hurry. I said, you could do it this week, next week, the following week. But I think in this case, I would cut those blossoms off because there was so many blossoms there.
Right.
I was afraid if we'd get a 2 or 3 inches of wet snow, it would actually literally tear the plant apart.
Right. You could leave a few for winter interest, but if it's that thick, maybe take at least 2/3 away.
Yeah, or thin it.
Right.
And in this case, you could even just thin it out if you wanted to leave some of the flowers there and enjoy them over the winter. Just reach in there and thin it out, and that would help too. Just to, at least that way, if we do get an ice storm or a heavier wet snow, it would filter through it instead of catch it.
Right, just it all of a sudden gathers all that wet, heavy snow up.
But that's on the PG varieties, Quickfire and Bobo and that family, the strawberry, vanilla,
Right.
All of those. So, and the leafy ones, though, those could be cut back slightly, but still leave enough to catch the leaves. So.
Yep.
And mulch them. Get some shredded bark mulcher on them. So, well, sounds like they're playing our song. We're about done. Jerry Schneider will be up next today. No Badger football till tonight.
No, not till late tonight.
Anyway, Rademann's open till noon today, Monday through Friday till 4:30, and we're just 3 miles south of Fond du Lac off of Highway 41. You can exit to the east, and we're just down the road about a quarter mile.
Excellent. Ron, Delores, thank you so much. As always, have a wonderful Saturday and a very spooky and wonderful happy Halloween.